The mystery behind the His-tory and my story. Part 3, Deeds, Maps, and News Articles. Learn of Kingville and the old schoolhouse campus 2-acre lot, school, teacher's cottage, and agricultural structures. Acknowledge the historical significance, architecture, and archaeological discoveries of key figures and resources responsible for the progression of Black education in Albemarle, North Carolina. Previous chapters discussed the establishment of Stanley County in 1841, Albemarle in 1857, the Emancipation Proclamation of 1863 and the 14th Amendment of 1868 that gave equal rights to citizenship and education, prompting Dr. Ogden Doremus King Sr.'s work and forward-thinking vision for the citizens of Kingville. Between 1893 and 1923, the town of Albemarle saw a significant increase in population, expanding from 200 to 10,000 residents. This growth was fueled by educational and employment prospects, resulting in advancements, historical importance, and a more connected community.
Who was Dr. Ogden Doremus King Sr.?
In 1887, Dr. Ogden Doremus King Sr. moved to Albemarle, North Carolina from Brooklyn, New York to practice medicine. He was known for implementing the importance of land ownership, religion, and formal education for Blacks. Dr. King's philanthropy was rewarded when the residents named their community Kingville in his honor in 1898.
Where is Kingville?
Begin your journey on the East Coast in North Carolina. Explore Albemarle Road in Charlotte, then take a 35 to 45-minute trip to a harming hidden gem located in a southeast portion of Albemarle within Stanley County, North Carolina. This secret gem was and is still sometimes called Kingville. Kingville is buried inside of an unincorporated South Albemarle Township in a once spirited southern region. Notice the Kingville-colored community on the historic map of the town of Albemarle right outside the southeast side of its city limits. Look even closer and you might find another secretly hidden gem inside the need-more-colored community.
Who was E.J. Freeman and J.M. Morrow, and where's Morrow Heights?
E.J. and Winnie Freeman sold more than 27.5 acres, worth $550, to J.M. Morrow Jr., a county school board member. This transaction led to the establishment of Morrow Heights in Stanley County by 1899. More information can be found in Register of Deeds Book 24, page 318. Morrow Heights spanned from Petey Avenue down Morrow Avenue, across Lundex Avenue, back up Colston Street, formerly known as West Street, all the way up to Petey Avenue found in Plat Book 1, page 147. Morrow Heights extended beyond the boundaries separating Albemarle and the Kingville-colored community.
Where did African Americans first attend school in Kingville?
In 1901, Dr. Ogden King Sr. played a pivotal role in founding Freeman's Chapel, which was later renamed Big Zion, currently Union Chapel AME Zion Church in Kingville. The merging of Kingville and Freeman's Chapel colored schools was publicized in the Stanley Enterprise newspaper on October 8, 1901, indicating that classes would take place at Freeman's Chapel. Fun fact: despite being married for more than 63 years, our grandparents consistently went to two different churches. Mae Jewel Freeman Brooks frequented Union Chapel AME Zion Church, formerly known as Freeman's Chapel, other times known as Big Zion, while her husband Otis Brooks was a loyal member of Mount Zion Baptist Church.
Who was Thomas Henry Brooks, aka Thos H. Brooks and the Fab Five?
As per a 1904 article in the Stanley Enterprise, Thos Henry Brooks was a trustee for the Albemarle Normal Industrial School at Mount Zion Baptist Church. In 1907, Thos Henry Brooks, Richard Wall, Joe Wall Jr., Sandy Burns, and Sandy Tyson formed the trustees of Stanley County Colored Normal and Collegiate Institute, we'll call the Fab Five. The Fab Five oversaw 2¼ acres of land, within the borders of Lundex and Colston, once West Street, and Gibson, once Pine Street, through a wooded pathway extension of Morrow Avenue back to Lundex located at the south end of Morrow Heights. 27½ acres in Plat Book 1 page 147, Deed Book 81 page 172. The Fab Five deed of trust dated January 30, 1907, worth $200, was sold by County School Board member J.M. Morrow to the Fab Five for the advancement of education and the future of Kingville. Measuring 230 feet by 379 feet, notice the same alignment of plot points on the plat map and the description in the deed.
Although the land was deeded in 1907, where was the Kingville School located on the 2¼ plot?
Here's an overview of the proposed Kingville School campus by the Fab Five, utilizing Google Maps, a 1993 satellite image, and the 1922 plat map of the southernmost edge of Morro Heights at 1073 and 1075 Lundex Street. On Google Maps, observe buildings highlighted as figures 1 and 2 that still exist at the same address. In contrast, on the 1993 satellite map, notice the vacant lot marked as figure 3 where the original black school building stood. Additionally, pay attention to figure 1 on the 1922 Morro Heights plat map, book 1, page 147, in the same spot location as today's 1073 Lundex Street.
What happened to Dr. Ogden King Sr. after 1907?
Dr. Ogden Doremus King Sr. passed in 1908, and so did the progress of black education until the introduction of Booker T. Washington and the Julius Rosenwald funds in 1920. And community leaders reigniting the equal education movement. The Kingville School's budget for 1920 to 1921 was $3,600, with funding of $100 from the community, $2,500 from public funds, and $1,000 from the Rosenwald Fund, as per a Fisk University study on Rosenwald schools in Stanley County. Revisiting the aerial view of the old schoolhouse campus, from a south to north perspective. Flip the script and view it from a north to south vantage point. At the intersection of South Morrow Avenue and Gibson Street, now look towards Lundex Street. The school now aligns perfectly on the campus looking towards Lundex Street. The Stanley News-Herald reported on February 21, 1922, the completion of a new school building in Kingville, involving speakers like Professor R.S. Graves and Dr. Davis of Biddle University. Here's the full article.
What were the 4 resolves for the Kingville Schoolhouse Committee?
One notable aspect in the article were the 4 resolutions that the Kingville community committed to. Resolve 1 expressed gratitude to the school board for matching the $1,000 donation from the Rosenwald Fund. Resolve 2 showed equal appreciation to Mr. Julius Rosenwald for his generous donation of $1,000 towards the construction of their new school building. Interestingly, the school is still humorously referred to as the old schoolhouse even today. Resolve 3 vowed to fight against ignorance, vice, and crime, committing to send their children to school for a better future and to prepare them for responsible American citizenship. The 4th resolution was straightforward: send copies to Mr. Julius Rosenwald, the County Board of Education, and the Stanley News-Herald. The Kingville committee members include R.S. Graves, William Henry Wall, Richard A. Wall, S.S. Washington, Lonnie Polk, and A.D. Cron.
When were the plans made for the Stanley County Rosenwald schools, teachers' homes, and black educational facilities?
As per page 43 of the National Park Service's Rosenwald Schools in North Carolina's multiple property listing by the U.S. Department of the Interior, 6 documented Rosenwald schools were in Stanley County. Among them, the Kingville School is listed as a 4-teacher type school. On page 46 of the list, 2 teachers' homes in Stanley County were reportedly located in Kingville and Norwood. Within the Fisk University study, the building plan for 1920 to 1921 budget year was for a 3-teacher school. Look closely at note, Mr. R's pick, as it explains the 1921 to 1922 budget for the teacher's home that was added. The 4th room was specifically added for Principal and Professor R.S. Graves and his family. Today, the teacher's home has been effortlessly transitioned into a 4 apartments with 7 beds and 4 baths at 1073 Lundex Street, per neighborwho.com. The Stanley News-Herald released an article on June 6, 1922, covering this movement for equal education in Stanley County.
Fisk University photographed the Norwood teacher's home but couldn't capture the Norwood and Porter Rosenwald School. They shared a picture of the Kingville Rosenwald School but lacked photos of the teacher's home at that time. The reason for the missing pictures at both locations remain mysterious.
How and when were the teacher's home and other educational facilities constructed on the old Kingville Schoolhouse campus?
The Stanley News-Herald in 1922 reported the Board of Education's approval to build a 4-room teacherage for the Kingville School, with $1,000 from the Julius Rosenwald Fund to improve educational resources for the colored community. Page 57 of the National Registry for Rosenwald Schools in North Carolina multiple property list explains how teacherages were built to reflect the Rosenwald schools in concept, style, and design based on Booker T. Washington's intentional educational vision. The residences were intended to be cozy and affordable, serving as an example for community mothers. Key features included the kitchen layout, back porch, dining and living room, and front porch designed for larger gatherings. Page 58 of the list links teacherages at Rosenwald schools to African American teachers' dedication. Campus-wide plans included schoolhouses, sanitary facilities, teacher residences, playgrounds, agricultural areas, and landscaping.
When did African American youth first attend, and who was the first principal of the old Kingville schoolhouse?
According to the Stanley County Museum's website, African American youth in Albemarle started attending Kingville School in 1921. In contrast, the North Carolina State Department of Public Instruction's Educational Directory indicates that the school began in the 1922 to 1923 academic year, with Professor R.S. Graves as the first principal.
How did Principal R.S. Graves secure funds for teacher salaries?
Professor R.S. Graves, the first principal of the old Kingville schoolhouse, secured $500 for the Stanley Negro School from New York's Education Board to employ a home economics and a vocational agriculture instructor. The 1922 Stanley News Herald article Professor Principal Graves announced the name change of the Kingsville Colored School to the Stanley County Training School. In a September 14, 1923, article Professor Graves announced the fall semester opening of Stanley County Training School on October 8, with the New York Education Board pledging $700 to build an agricultural building. The Stanley News Herald on September 25, 1925, reported allocation of Rosenwald funds for the Kingville School, the first in the county to receive aid. Funds were distributed for a 5-room school building, for room teachers' residence, and a 2-room agricultural industrial structure. Here is a copy of the full article along with the proposed modification of the current state historical map.
The 1925 article recounts a school board visit to Kingville School, where Professor Graves supervised the teaching of 6th, 7th, and 8th grades. Meanwhile, his wife handled the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grades, with additional staff overseeing music, domestic science, and technical subjects such as bricklaying.
Who were other educators and advocates for the Stanley County Training School?
Professor and Principal R.S. Graves led Stanley County Training School until 1926, after which Principal E.H. Miller assumed the role, then Principal J.M. Williams from 1927 to 1931. North Carolina School Officials Directory for years 1926 to 1927 show E.H. Miller as principal of the Stanley County Training School for Negroes, and J.M. Williams from 1927 to 1931. William H. Wall served as president of the Parent Teachers Association for the school. He oversaw improvements like installing window shades and building a stage. Renovation funds also came from home economic lunch sales and the Athletic Association projects. The same Stanley News and Press article, dated April 11, 1930, highlighted growth of more teachers, sports teams, and a larger science department. Due to overcrowding, seniors relocated to the agricultural building in 1928 to 1929. The student population increased to 218, with an average monthly attendance of 195 in the 1929 to 1930 school year. As Kingville continuously grew.
Who was Horace C. Gore?
Principal Horace C. Gore led Stanley County Training School from 1931 to 1937 and facilitated the transition of black students to Kingville High School from 1936 to 1944. The North Carolina School Officials Directory during 1931 to 1932 lists H. C. Gore as the principal of the county training school. Here's a copy of the meeting minutes of the Stanley County Board of Education from 1932 to 1933, listing the local Kingville committee members: Henry Wall for 2 years, E.D. Dawson for 1 year, and Ulysses Brooks for 3 years. In the 1933 to 1934 high school principal's annual report, Horace C. Gore led a 160-day school year enrolling over 246 students, 27 high school boys, 28 girls, 95 elementary boys, and 103 girls. He supervised 4 full-time and 3 part-time elementary teachers, as well as 2 full-time and 1 part-time high school teacher.
How did funding vary between white students and black students during this era?
This National Registry reports a funding disparity between black and white students in North Carolina from 1915 to 1930. Despite a 5-fold rise in spending per black student, allocations remained lower for black students compared to white students. In the 1934 to 1935 school year, Horace C. Gore managed a 32-week academic calendar with over 200 students, including high school and elementary, with a staff of 2 full-time high school and 5 elementary teachers. Due to budget restraints, the 1935 to 1936 principal's report omitted elementary student counts. Funding discrepancies often reflected budgeting influenced by race in addition to total student count. Here is a copy of a diploma from the Stanley County Training School for Brady Crump Sr. dated May 1936. In the 1936 to 1937 North Carolina School Officials Directory, Horace C. Gore's final report mentions the county training school before moving to a new 4-acre campus at Kingville High School from the previous 2-acre campus.
Would take me to this building up on Londex, and it was a big room, and you know, most of the classes would go like from first kindergarten, first, second, third, you know, and there wasn't a high school. I remember that. There was never a high school there.
Why not?
Because it was just a house. It was like a school house, not a school building, but a house.
Okay.
It was just a little, you know, place they called school.
So did a lot of people just drop out after 8th or 9th grade? Is that why they didn't go to high school?
They didn't have a high school.
What do you mean?
That's as far as they went.
So there wasn't a high school to go to?
No.
Because I hear stories about, you know, my grandma saying she just went as far as 8th grade and my grandfather went as far as 9th grade, but I'm thinking they dropped out.
No, it wasn't no high school.
There wasn't
That's
a high
why
school.
they built Kingville High School to make it go all the way to the 12th grade. So that's when I came to go to school. I began to go to school. When my sisters went all the way to the school, you know, how far ever they went up from first to the 8th or 9th grade, then they finished in the brick building.
So it's not that they dropped out.
Mm-mm.
They didn't have nowhere to drop into.
We all had to finish high school. My dad wouldn't hear it.
But your dad didn't have an opportunity because there wasn't a high school for him to go to?
Mm-mm.
Got you. Okay. Now that makes sense. It's not that they dropped out. They didn't have a high school to go to.
No high school.
And Kingville High was the first high school for blacks in Albemarle, correct?
That's it.
Okay. Gotcha. Now that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. That's why they call it Kingville High.
They
could have said Kingville School.
You're right.
But they said Kingville High because they elevated from the elementary to high school. So you couldn't go in a little house. So they built the brick building in order for them to go up higher in school.
What were the contributions of William Henry Wall and the Wall family to the development of Kingville?
Student population grew and overcrowding became an issue, despite extra campus facilities like agricultural buildings and teachers' homes. William Henry Wall and the Wall brothers were respected in Kingville and City Hall for their leadership and brick masonry. William, the first black notary public, ran for city council and devoted over 65 years to Freeman's Chapel, later Union Chapel. Richard and Joe Jr. were members of the Fab Five, and Richard and William served on the Kingville Committee. The brothers built colonial revival structures, promoting homeownership and self-sufficiency, owning Wall Heights, the largest subdivision in Albemarle for the colored community, covering 8.3 acres of Kingville. As reported February 25, 1936, in the Stanley News and Press, William and wife Laura Wall sold a 3.95-acre plot to the Stanley County Board of Education for $1,350 as the site for the new Kingville High School, while buying lots from Albemarle Real Estate for $50 and other considerations.
When was the new Kingville High School built?
In 1936, the county school board built 2 new brick school buildings in Norwood and Kingville for black students. The 1936 to 1937 North Carolina School Officials Directory mentions Horace C. Gore as principal for the county training school and the Kingville High School. While the new school was being built, the high school's curriculum may have been incorporated into the county training schools, requiring more classrooms, and seemingly leading to buildings like the agricultural and teacherage being referred to as a schoolhouse locally. Albemarle contractors built West Elementary School for whites and Kingville High School for black students with school board funding and construction cost of $43,000 in 1937. Designed by the architects Northrop, O'Brien, and Yo, and built by Little Building Company, the county museum's website indicates that Kingville High School replaced the Rosenwald School. Nevertheless, a recent memo from the State Historic Preservation Office disputes this claim of the county training school being replaced or demolished because the new high school was actually located at a different site of 621 Wall Street. Principal Gore provided education up to 12th grade at Kingville High School according to the principal's annual report and the Educational Directory of North Carolina from 1937 to 1938.
What happened to the old schoolhouse campus?
According to the Stanley News and Press article from April 30, 1937, as per Section 62 on page 20 of the Public School Laws of North Carolina, the state took on the oversight of public schools. Meanwhile, the Stanley County Board of Education continued to manage school facilities and assets. This shift was apparently intended to improve decision-making, maintenance, and resource allocation, demonstrating the community's dedication to fair and effective education practices. The State Historic Preservation Office recommended exploring county school board minutes of that time to understand the transition of the Stanley County Colored Normal and Collegiate Institute/Kingville Colored School from private to public oversight. This investigation would provide insights into the transfer of property ownership from the institute trustees to the county. Upon collaborating with a school board administrator at the Stanley County School Board, a thorough examination of past school board minutes revealed a detailed account of the land deed transfer from the local school committee to the Board of Education. Initially, the records did not contain a deed for this property, probably because the land was part of a private trust and not classified as public school property back then. Take note of the blank space following the reference to Deed Book No. 81, page 172. Before the deed would be transferred a year later, an article was published in the Stanley News and Press regarding a notice of sale of school property in the April 13, 1937 edition of the Stanley News and Press. The advertisement featured a Wotton school building with 2 rooms, previously the Kingville School. Another Wotton school building with 5 rooms, also previously the Kingville School. The Kingville School lot spanning 2 acres, which includes a well and a hand pump.
Based on the Board of Education minutes, the deed was obtained from Henry Brooks, the last trustee of the Stanley County Colored Normal and Collegiate Institute, on September or October 12, 1937, transferring the 2¼ acres of land to the board for $1. According to the resolution in the school board minutes, J.M. Morrow had sold a 2¼ acre plot to the Fab Five for $200 for educational purposes. Following the transfer of schools and properties to the Stanley County Board of Education, the Board of Education assumed ownership of the property and oversaw the maintenance of the school buildings and land. Prior to the 2-acre Stanley County Training School lot being transferred to the County Board of Education in September or October of 1937, another 4-acre lot had already been acquired 2 blocks away on Wall Street and McLaughlin from the Wall family for $1,350 in February of 1936, 6 months earlier. This new school site was intended to accommodate the growing black student population.
The article in the Snap on Monday, April 18, 1937, advertised the sale of a Wotton 2-room and a 5-room school building, formerly known as Kingville School, and a 2-acre lot containing a well and hand pump. A 7-room school building in Newwood was also up for sale. The land and buildings at each site would be auctioned separately and together, ensuring the property is sold in the most beneficial manner for the County Board of Education. The transfer of property and deeds for the 2-acre lot in Kingville from Goes Henry Brooks took a minimum of 6 months, with the document dated September and October 12, 1937.
Who purchased the old schoolhouse campus lot and who owns it today?
Upon the enactment of public school laws transfer, the Stanley County School Board obtained properties and deeds in 1936. They invited 26 deeds bids for labor, materials, plumbing, and heating systems for the construction of Kingville Colored School and Norwood Colored School, without requesting a deposit. On October 12, 1937, Henry Brooks, the final living trustee of the Stanley Colored Normal and Collegiate Institutes Fab 5, completed the transfer of a 2-acre land deed to the school board for the sum of $1. Interestingly, on the same date, the school board later sold the same plot of land to B.C. Cranford for $600. This transaction proved profitable for the board, as they had acquired 4 acres from the Wall family for $1,350 just 6 months prior. Examine the modifications made to the deed between Cranford and the school board concerning the resolution noted in the school board minutes. Initially adjusting the date on the Brooks deed from September to October 12 to align with the date it was transferred to Cranford may raise certain inquiries. Adding to the intrigue is the discovery that the 2 acres sold to the school board did not include lots 77, 78, 79, and 80, where the 5-room school building was located, according to recent research and viewpoints. The school board's decision to sell the school building on land not included in the original deed raises curiosity. Additionally, there is no reference to the sale of the 4-room teacherage that was present on the school campus in the advertisement for the sale of school property on April 13, 1937, in the Stanley News and Press by the Stanley County Board of Education, which included the 2-room architectural building, 5-room school building, and 2-acre lot. Cranford acquired this particular lot from the school board on October 12, 1937. The school building used to stand next to the agricultural building, which remains in its original location to this day, along with the teacherage. This map showcases the arrangement of the Stanley County Training School campus, highlighting both the existing buildings and the absent schoolhouse through images. The 5-room schoolhouse was mysteriously demolished, but the teacherage and 2-room architectural building remain as historical landmarks in the Kingville community, as part of the Stanley County School Training Campus. B.C. Cranford sold part of the 2-acre property to the Tucker family. The Tucker family then passed ownership to the present owners Richard McDonald and Christopher Bennett. The area where the school building once existed was eventually purchased by Robert Davis, who later sold it to Lyman Crump. The State Historic Preservation Office has stumbled upon a mention of an elementary school dating back to before 1921. Adding complexity to the mystery. Official records are scarce, with only a brief note by the Albemarle city manager in 1988. Notably, the Stanley County School Board minutes from March 7, 1921, refer to discussions about expanding the Kingville Colored School. This information, found in a memo from 1988, indicates that the institute had likely established itself and erected a building or buildings referred to as the Kingville Colored School by 1921. Delving into school archives at the State Archives could unveil further details about this early school.
Where was the Kingville Elementary School located?
But as far as the location of that school, it was on Lundeck Street and on the corner of Lundex and Washington Lane. So the fact of the matter is there was a school there.
Yeah, there was a school there. Now there was a school, yes.
Right. So what do you know about that school?
Now listen, all I ever know about that, all I have ever known about that school, should I say, or know about it now, is that there was a building there, and I think I guess it went to the high school, but there was another building down there, but it was an elementary school building that's down on the next street. I'm trying to think of the name of the street.
Colston Street?
Colston Street, yes. There was a school right there on Colston Street, right on the corner of Colston and you said that's Bendix?
Lundex.
Lundex. Okay. All right. On the corner of Colston and Lundex, there was a house right there, was a schoolhouse, there was a school building right there, and it had it upstairs, and it was for the elementary. And that's where the elementary kids went to school. When I was going to school to Kingville, I'd go back there every day. And it was the same 2-story building. And they said that was the elementary school. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know anything about that. I didn't have any. I didn't have any family. I don't think went to school at that. Went to school there. But all I know is that there was a building there, and they called it the elementary school building.
Well, that's
as far as the high school, the other building was, I think that was the upper grade. I'm not even sure whether the school went beyond 8th grade or 11th grade. But all I know is that it was a building there, and they called that the old schoolhouse.
Well, that's the next mystery we need to uncover then, because this is new to me. I just figured out the mystery of the old schoolhouse on Lundex and Washington Lane. But if you're telling me there was 2 schools before Kingville, is that what you're telling me?
Yes, sir. I'm telling you that right now.